Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Before we get started, just want to give a quick shout-out to our Patreon. If you haven't noticed, and you are a member of our Patreon, we have put up the first episode of Mike's Book Nook about Ravnica War of the Spark Ravnica. So definitely check that out. It's a pretty healthy discussion. We talk for about probably 45 minutes or so. About
I was like, oh, this will be like 15 minutes, right? No, we're just wordy.
Right, about the just the first act. So even if you haven't gotten through the whole book, as long as you've gotten through everything in the first act, then it's everything you've already read. We don't really extend anything further, I guess, technically book-wise. I mean, we obviously know the end of the story and everything that, but it's mainly focused on the book and kind of goes through the motions and kind of gives our general opinion on it. But I do encourage you to listen to it if you haven't already and you are one of our patrons. And if you aren't yet, definitely go to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/atyourendstep and join. And it's available to any patron at any level. So regardless of your level of contribution, you'll have access to it. And just a hearty thank you to all of our patrons out there.
Absolutely. And I want to apologize for us not casting last week. I'm going to put that one square on me. And if we have another week here in the near future, we don't. That's going to be square on me too. My life's a crazy mess at the moment, so we're all just living in it.
I don't think I wouldn't say mess. Mess is like a negative term.
Yeah, I mean, it's not negative. It's just very busy and lots of possible changes. So
yeah, I mean, this time of year is always busy for you just due to your work. And that picks up at the this time of the year, and you're starting stuff and finishing stuff and doing extracurriculars. I know you'd like to do like rec leagues with softball and stuff like that. Because if you haven't heard about
his cast to go pitch a game,
if you haven't heard, I produce and Mike is on another a podcast called the Church of Baseball, which is a little. We haven't had an episode of it in quite some time.
If your listeners going, do you do that show? That's a fair question, and yes, it will return.
Fair question. Yes, that is the intent. So definitely a whole lot of stuff. As far as my life, it's pretty okay.
Chill F.
Was a little sick. Mike was a little sick. Then I got a little sick, which happens when you are in close proximity to someone.
Fun fact: week after the fact, that cough doesn't go away. Still got it.
Oh yeah, no, still right in there for sure. But we definitely have a fair amount of things to talk about, Magic related, both community and competitive. So let's jump right in. The first thing we want to talk about is the MPL and the whatever the MPL is. it's kind of just a mess, and it's continued to be a mess. We have the first thing we're going to talk about on the docket here is Jerry Thompson and him resigning from the MPL and leaving, and there are sort of multiple things that kind of go into why he's doing this, what his decisions were. So if you are interested in that, definitely check out the Arena Decklist podcast. And I think I believe he wrote an article.
He did. I linked to it here. He had a thing on the game podcast's website. So
if you do want sort of a deeper dive into that, I would definitely encourage you to take it from the horse's mouth. That's going to be your best shot here. And then with that being the case, we still had 2 slots to fill at that point in time, because we have to fill the slot for Jerry as well as for Yuya, which have been filled by Jessica Estefan and then Jan Mikkonen or Savage. And they are now official members of the MPL. And this caused somewhat of a stir within the community, just for the sheer fact that we don't know the criteria for the MPL. We don't know how to qualify for the MPL. We don't know, other than just being one of WotC's precious children that gets picked out of the litter. We really don't know how these MPL members are being elected. We thought we knew.
Are they puppies or are they lobsters? Which one is it?
It depends on what allegations are thrown against you, I guess.
It's true, I suppose.
But we thought we had a pretty good grasp on it, just for the sheer fact that the members of the MPL that were there, they were a certain level of a either in the pro club or something like that. They seemingly were kind of handpicked from the top 30 ex players at the time, And since that has gone on, it's now become a little bit less clear as to how you get there.
Let's contextualize a little bit here, because one of the things that I think this conversation's been difficult both for people like who are viewers of the MPL, but I think also for members of the MPL as well. And that shouldn't reflect poorly on the people chosen. You know what I mean?
No.
So like this is anything we say here is not meant as anything critical for Jessica, Stefan, or Savige. So I will say that Jessica's slot makes more sense to me, because if you quantify like one of your MPL slots as like the highest points earner for women, then that makes sense. And I think she was, from what I saw. I haven't looked, so but like that slot makes sense. If they are saying that one of the goals is diversity, then like okay, we'll keep it competitive with highest like, points. Though granted, that's going to be mythic points then here in a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. Savige is the one that I think probably frustrates more players, because he had a good show in the Mythic Invitational, but he hasn't been playing Magic for very long. I believe he has 0 Pro Tour appearances or Mythic Championship appearances. He is self-proclaimed to not play paper Magic ever, which doesn't mean you can't be in the MPL, but it does mean you don't have the history with the game to get the standing that supposedly the MPL needed. You know what I mean? Like, Jessica Stefan won a GP. You know what I mean? Like, but he has good viewer numbers, and he is popular that way. So, this reminded a lot of people of like the Silver Showcase, where they just like asked big streamers from other games to come in and do these things. We've had like like Day 9 and things like this in the past.
Yeah.
But I think like if you thought the MPL, and this is WotC's stated goal at the MPL, to be this bastion of competitive players and the height of play, I think it's hard to say that Savige really belongs in that group. Like, am I crazy?
Comparatively to the other people in MPL, I don't think you're wrong.
And again, I enjoyed watching Savige. I was rooting for the guy through a lot of that in Mythic Invitational. He is a compelling streamer. Which if that's a good enough reason, then that's fine. But that isn't what the MPL has stated that its reasoning or logic was. And now we're back in this holding pattern where we don't know what the MPL is. We don't know how to qualify for the MPL. The pro club standings are about to disappear.
Right.
We don't know how do you continue to change things? How do you qualify? How do you become an MPL member? We still don't have any of these answers. And a lot of that is, a lot of these things I'm saying right now are the reasons that, Jerry Thompson decided to, part of the reasons he decided to withdraw from the MPL. So, I think like Sam Pardee is one of the people who got like I think come down on pretty hard, because he was very upset, I think, about the way some of this went down, and like people were accusing him of being sort of like negative towards these 2 new additions, and he's like, well, no, like this is what this is supposed to be, and we don't know, like now we have no idea. So if WotC wants to turn around for the next season and say like the MPL is whatever we decide it is, then like sure, go for it. Like, that's fine. But it is weird to say like this is our intent, and then like don't worry, information is coming, and then you get stuck at like the loading screen at 99%. You know what I mean? We're like, I'm sure it'll fill up. I'm sure the bar will fill.
You're just trying to download some images, but you're on that 56K modem and it's just going line by line, and you're just like, come on, we're almost there. But
that's a big picture of a middle finger.
I think it's tough. I think it's tough for because I think it's the sheer fact that times they are a changing, and what
thanks, Bobby,
and what competitive play looks like is going to be different from what people are used to. So the entrenched competitive player is going to naturally be frustrated with that, because it's not going to be the same thing as it was, because how people are choosing to interact with Magic is changing a little bit. They have a shiny new product that's getting a lot of people interested. And some of that, does bleed back over into paper, which is good, but not all of it. And then again, how I think that a lot of people that are frustrated have to take into the mindset of how important the competitive player is for Magic. I just, like, it's just a difficult thing. And I think that no matter what WotC does, they're not going to satisfy everyone. They're not going to make everyone happy. That's an impossibility. And knowing their track record, they're probably going to be wrong about it for a long time before they get it right. And I don't blame people for being frustrated with not having a clear pathway to what is essentially a career. What essentially is a job. And they don't know how to keep that job either, and that would be frustrating if you were any other employee.
Frustrating, terrifying.
Yeah, like this is
terrifying.
So
I mean, again, kudos to Jerry T, who walked away from that contract. Like that would be tough to do, I think.
100%. Getting paid like a lot of money, a healthy amount of money. A lot of money is dependent on where you live, I guess, but a healthy amount of money to do what you love, which is what we are told time and time again growing up, is to do what you love and get paid for it. So to have the wherewithal to be like, this is not a good situation. Like, this is not where I want, like, how I want to do this. Basically, that's what what it feels like. Jerry's saying, like, I want this, but this is not how it should be happening. So I don't blame people for being frustrated. I just worry that people might have a false sense of self-importance overall to the big corporate machine that is WotC Hasbro.
Okay, so I want to answer that because I think I agree. To Hasbro in general, absolutely.
Yeah.
However, I think suggesting that like the pro player is not important doesn't fit in line with the way that WotC is spending money this year. $10 million on competitive play. A lot of that's still in paper tournaments. The MPL itself is literally paying people to be professional players. So WotC is spending money like it's important. And WotC has always spent money like it's important. Maybe not as much money as we want them to spend, but probably in line with how important they think it is. They spend more money on that than any sort of traditional marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think like you could say that about a lot of these type of games as well, like these type of competitive games. Like you don't
to
see,
an extent, I mean,
you don't typically see big advertisements for something like Hearthstone unless you're online.
Sure, but you don't see arena commercials.
You've seen them.
I've seen the trailer now as an ad a couple of times.
Yeah,
Before that, no. Before that, it was the weird Visordrix commercials when I was in middle school.
Yeah, those are bad commercials.
But like,
that's a trip down memory lane.
I think like that is a tough sell to me. It does like the whole club standing and stuff. Like the individual pro is probably not that important. I agree with you. That self-importance is there. However, what WotC has sold effectively, especially to us sitting here talking about this right now, and what they continue to try and sell, and honestly, which most other games in professional sports also sell, is the dream, is the line to do it. And WotC has honestly, regardless of like what's going on with the pros themselves, has always had a pretty consistent line on how to do that.
Yes,
the Players Club does that, and now without that, they can say, "Oh, we have this shiny new toy," but you want people putting their eyeballs on Twitch and then going back and saying, I could replicate that, I can do that. Otherwise, it's not worth having like a Mythic Invitational or Mythic Championships. Mm-hmm. Like that's what your goal is to keep that line going.
Yeah.
How many people actually get into those gold standing clubs? Like gold, silver, even bronze. Like it's not that many, but it's the ability to do so. That's always what they've sold. So
right.
It seems weird now to have such a large gap in what they're selling with that. Do they really think that just like Arena by itself just like negates that? And again, I would say no, they don't think that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending $10 million on organized play.
And I think like from announcement to where it is currently, it has changed a lot behind the scenes.
Sure, I'm sure that it has.
And I think like that is frustrating because we still have this issue of secrecy within organized play within WotC. And when you talk about money, I definitely would agree that more money is being spent on things like Mythic Championships and Mythic Invitationals. But we now have digital Mythic Championships,
yeah, sure,
which more money is being spent on.
That's also true.
And the Invitational is the most money, which is all Arena as well. So a lot of that is just marketing for Arena. I think it's frustrating for the Invitationals too because that's where the most money is. But how do you get there?
Yeah.
Start streaming. Like that's your best option.
Contact Misty, whatever her name is, on Twitter. Right. Like she'll be very accommodating.
So it's. I think that's the things that are frustrating for a entrenched traditional, professional Magic player because it's not just win a tournament, qualify, like they're used to. It's you now have to diversify what the product that you're bringing to us so that we can market off of you.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's, I mean, it's a kind of a weird symbiotic relationship that's going to have to form between WotC and these pros, because they're going to want a lot more out of you if you want to be a part of the MPL. And I think it's been difficult for them to get that to a place that is where they want, as far as diversity is accounted for, as well as marketability is accounted for.
That's true.
Without it being something that isn't, and also it still being like quote unquote competitive, because we talked about this before, how the just because you are a top competitive Magic player does not necessarily mean that you are marketable.
Right, that's true.
Does not necessarily mean that makes that field diverse. And I think they want it to be, but it's not. It's just going to be. It's always going to be a frustrating situation. That is the unfortunate thing, because if they just made it pure merit, then you just run into issues with a lot of different factors.
Yeah, that's a broader conversation. I don't think we can.
It's a super difficult conversation. I think that Matt Sperling did have a very good article.
He really did.
I'm someone that sometimes the things that Matt Sperling say just rub me the wrong way, because he just sounds like an old man yelling at clouds sometimes. But he did have it's a nuanced topic. It's something that I'm definitely not qualified to talk about, debate. No one has a solve for it. No one has a fix for it. But it's difficult. It's touchy, and it is different from how traditional pro Magic has been established before this whole thing started. Where it was just win a tournament, qualify, and if you just keep winning, if you just keep showing that you are the best, with asterisk best, then you continue to make money and have this be your job. And I don't know if that is the one-to-one translation that the MPL is.
It certainly isn't. I should point out, so the reference here, that Matt Sperling's article, is talking about like the concept of affirmative action.
Correct.
Which, if you aren't familiar with that, you should look it up. It is an important topic in our world. But I do like this concept of equality versus like equity. There's a really good comic, and I know it sounds weird to say it, but it was essentially like people watching a baseball game of different heights, and like showing like equality is like everyone has access to the baseball game at the same fence height, but equity is like giving the shorter person a place to stand so they could be at the same height. And it's such a simple thing, but like you realize that pure merit, us as two schlubby white guys talking on a podcast, like merit doesn't mean as much, because like you can't even account for the fact that you were in a situation affluent enough to be able to play Magic for a certain amount of time. So,
right.
I think like, and that is just a tough conversation, and it just, the frustrating thing is like those conversations are all worth merit, and I think everybody would be willing to listen to WotC like say their reasonings behind it, but instead they give one reasoning out, then they make a different decision, and then they give no reasoning afterwards, and it's frustrating, and I think it's frustrating for those MPL members too, who are supposed to be a part of like there was supposed to be a pro like forum essentially, and they've sort of disbanded that, and they haven't it's a whole thing. So yeah. I do want to tie in quickly, since I put this as a different topic on the community thing, but we can bump it up here. This has sort of coincided with the MPL Weekly. Yeah. Which is a show they started setting up. Now, I only watched a little bit of it. How much did you watch of it all?
I haven't watched any of it, to be perfectly honest.
They had Brian Kibler, Cedric Phillips, and then I'm going to forget her name now. She was the floor reporter from.
Like I said, I haven't really watched.
She was a floor reporter for the Invitational, and yes. I did not know her name. I was going to say Alias, but that was the other announcer. So yeah. She's. But anyways, they started this showing pre-recorded matches and then talking about them. The first week had 53,000 viewers. Mm-hmm. The second week it cut into the mocks and only had 18,000 viewers. Yeah. Now the mocks had its own issues, which hurt viewership a fair amount. Yeah. But that's a significant drop from one week to another.
And with viewers, Twitch does this new thing where they embed streams into ads, so you never know what is pure
a viewer and what's an ad.
What's an ad being
run? That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's awful. That's why when you see like the Pro Tour getting like 50,000 like viewers, those probably aren't genuine numbers. Those are just ads.
I didn't realize that.
That's how it's been for some time. So you can see this if you go to like I think MTG Goldfish. If you don't have an ad blocker on, you'll see like a Twitch stream startup. And so
I have ad block on all the time, so I never see these things.
So like viewership on Twitch is like a tough thing to gauge now because we don't have the full data. We don't know what is a active viewer versus a ad viewer, and I wouldn't take, I would take those numbers with a grain of salt, to be perfectly honest.
The base number is sort of irrelevant. It's the drop number that's terrifying.
Yeah, and maybe, if you're looking at that and you have 18,000 genuine people that are watching that, which is likely the case, to be honest. I don't know if they were, in that ad injection or not, but then I think that's fine.
It's dropped from 53,000 to 18,000?
But if those were false numbers...
You're saying that they had, 30-some thousand false?
Maybe.
Man, then you're spending your money the wrong way, I guess.
I like that. I would need to know, what are we aiming for?
Well, and that's a good question. And like, so I'm looking at this purely. I'm thinking of it as like a box office receipt. You know what I mean? Where, or like a TV show, to be quite honest. Like, you expect a premiere to be healthier. You know what I mean? Movie premieres, it gets its most money in the first week. The number you monitor, though, is drop off. Like, you can tell how an audience feels about a movie based on drop off. So like if a movie makes okay amount of money but then only drops off like 20% the next week, then like it's probably got legs. Same with a TV show. But if you get a huge premiere and then you drop 50% of your viewers the next week, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to monitor that closely because you'd be looking at cancellation. Now, granted, this doesn't have the kind of assumably it doesn't have the kind of monetary costs other things do. You're probably paying all three of your announcers hosts, there a fair amount, that and like the set looked nice and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's something to monitor because like if people are frustrated with the MPL and the MPL players are frustrated with the MPL, then like it probably affects viewers.
I think it is important to monitor, but we can't monitor it.
No,
if that makes
no.
sense. We can't draw definitive conclusions.
And I'm not trying to. I'm just saying like it's something to look at because these 2 weeks did coincide with a lot of negativity for the MPL. So
sure. I for the most part though, I think the people that care about that to some degree, I think the people that care to watch it also don't care about the negativity.
It's very possible, and you could
see
as
much as others,
you could see it rebounded and not matter at all, and that's like how WotC looks at you and says, "Well, people don't care." So maybe it could be a double-edged sword. I don't know, but just something to think about. And hopefully, WotC will someday decide to tell all the people who are currently sitting in bronze, silver, and gold, "Hey, what's going to happen with you?" Because who knows? Even Jerry said that he was platinum before he took the MPL job, and they said if you leave the MPL, you will exit with the same standing that you had. Meaning you'll have those Pro Tour invites, whatever else. But he's like, I actually have no idea because technically Platinum won't exist. So
yeah, it's going to be a very interesting change how organized play looks, and I think it's going to leave a lot of people who are used to the ways of old very bitter.
I think like that you say like the ways of old, but like the ways of old aren't like the ways of old are the same way that golf or bowling or any other or darts or any other random side sport does their qualification system in their pro ranking, or like tennis. Like you go to an open, you score enough points to get onto the professional circuit, you go to professional series. Like it's weird that you're like, not you specifically, but it's weird that they're like, oh, this is the old way. And it's like, actually it's the standard way. You're just going off into, I don't know, what's your favorite animal? Oh, you said jellyfish? You're in the MPL now. Look at you. You did it. So
and like that, I think that's
really reductive, and I apologize. Again, that's not me trying to say anything negative
I'm just
about
saying,
new additions to the or anything like that.
I just think you get into trouble when you compare Magic to traditional sports.
I
think like
I'm not comparing it to the sport. The qualification system is the same.
But I mean, like I think like. So there are a few wrinkles in that as well. With most professional sports, you have both a men's league and a women's league.
You're not wrong. So, it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong.
So that just that differentiation, that wrinkle, completely changes the thing. Because if you just, I mean, I think it does, because those are also at the bare minimum, those are all things about meritocracy, right? Those are all things that representative how well you do.
That is true.
You have it is the standard in sports is that you separate the sexes due to physical
performance.
That there are certain natural advantages. I don't know. Listen, I'm actually not an
Natural
expert on
advantages.
it.
Women, you can send your hate mail directly to Morgan.
Yeah, please do.
I'm at his
not
home.
nuanced.
I want to see it.
I'm not nearly being nuanced about this as much as I should. It's difficult.
Now that we aren't at all. We're sort of spitting around with this because I think like it's tough, and until we have some guidance from WotC. But here's the thing: WotC's guidance, what is it even worth? Like I don't even know. Like they certainly aren't leaders in this, and they could be. And I think they're pretending like they are by these these additions to the MPL.
Yeah.
Yo, Autumn was a great addition. Jessica's a great addition. I'm sure Savich is a great addition.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure what he's going to do is he's going to help bring people to the game.
100%.
I'm sure what they want all the MPL players to do is bring people to the game.
Here's the thing: he's going to bring people to the game, but he's also like, there's also multiple clips that other MPL members have shared of him on stream saying he's like, no, Paper Magic's not worth my time. WotC can't be okay with that.
I don't know.
No, they can't be okay. I got to tell you, if you are paid to a contract by WotC, I bet he can't say that on air anymore because it doesn't matter if you're trying to push Arena a whole bunch. You can't say that like the other avenues aren't worth your time. You can't. It's all revenue. You can't literally like bite the hand that feeds.
Probably. I mean, I think he could probably say he doesn't play Paper Magic.
That's not what I'm saying. Like he's been like he was invited to London.
Yeah.
Wasn't worth his time to go.
To be fair,
again,
it's not.
I'm saying that there's no way in the world that you could be an employee of a place. You know what I mean? Like think of your employer, right? And you look, you know what their main thing. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah,
okay?
thank you.
But think of what their main service is, right?
Sure.
But they have other additional services.
Sure.
They would not be okay with you being like, yeah, well, these are good, but this is really crappy. I hate these. Don't worry though. That's not how we make the bulk of our money.
I don't.
You would be fired.
Yes. I don't know. It's tough. I think it's tough because I don't think he's being critical of Magic the Gathering. He's being critical of the organized play, right? I don't know.
Yeah, we got. Hey, let's move on from this.
Yeah, I agree. It's a messy subject, and literally we do not have enough information for it. So
nor enough time because
yes.
I am on a timer.
Yeah, he's got a heart out, as they say. So Modern Horizon has starting. We've gotten some sweet spoilers. Got a lot of cool cards to take a look at and talk about. And I don't really want to take a whole lot of time talking about it, but we will talk about a few cards, I imagine. Talk about a few impacts it's having with pricing and our thoughts so far. So what cards are? What are some heavy hitters? Let's just talk about Urza.
Okay.
Like, I mean, as far as cards that are like, I feel like hit on all levels. I think Urza's like a perfect way to talk about.
I think it's a different card to start with because I think it was the whole point of the set, but. That's fine. We can start with Urza, Lord High Artificer, which is 2 generic blue for a 1/4 legendary creature human artificer. When Urza, Lord High Artificer enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, so a construct.
A construct.
Tap an untapped artifact you control, add blue mana to your mana pool.
Seems good.
5 mana, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until the end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost.
And that's another artifact.
It's Temporal Aperture.
There it is.
From Urza Saga.
Yeah, so this card is...
so this is Urza pre-Spark.
Yes.
So this is Urza's brother War, Urza. So it kind of
still has his regular human eyes.
He's got those eyes.
He doesn't have the Meek Stone and the Power Stone shoved into his eyeballs that somehow give him magical powers. Magic lore is wild.
I do like. So some people just may not know this, and that's fine. Like I think they assume that like Urza got old because he lived for thousands of years. No, his planeswalker sparked when he was an old man.
Yeah,
that kind of sucks. Like, hey, you're immortal now, but you're immortal as an old man forever. Neat. So
cool.
So yeah, I mean this is very good. Again, it has sort of it was a grand architect.
Yeah.
Sort of feel to it. It does have a couple of already like wombo combos.
Infinite with Thopter Sword.
Makes infinite mana. You can draw your deck, play your deck essentially. So, yeah, it's a powerful card.
Yeah, just like
survives Lightning Bolt, but it does cost 4 mana. So you probably have to go off the turn you cast it, but it's certainly very powerful. This is one of the few cards that I've seen out of this set that I could say yes, this probably could establish a new deck.
Sure.
It could also like it's important. Like we already have things like oh, I can't think of it now. Like war decks that
Yeah.
probably just want this anyways. But there were some Grand Architect decks back when Scars was in standard and it had them, and we had some modern variants too.
Yeah.
I could see this going back there. So, let's stick with blue and the card that I was talking about, which is Force of Negation.
Yes.
So, we're getting a cycle of free spells, like Force of Will. They have a caveat though. So, Force of Negation is generic blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it. If it's not your turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. So, it's Force of Will that's negate, and you can only alt cast it on your opponent's turn.
Correct.
So you can't use it to protect your combo. You can only use it to interact with opponents.
Yeah.
And this is true of all the forces we have. I think the red one.
We have not seen the red one, and I don't know what the red one's going to do.
The white one is fairly worthless.
I mean, Flash Anthem is
It's fine. We have them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Dictate of Heliod's a thing, so I hope the free casting cost matters.
Dictate of Heliod is 5 mana. This is
okay. Fair enough.
3.
It's also +2/+2 for the Dictate of Heliod. So.
Yeah, sure.
Again,
this is 3 to free.
I would need to see a deck that wants Flash Crusade
for sure.
But the black one is interesting, which it kills all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn.
Yes.
And then the green one is probably the most relevant one beyond that so far, which is destroy up to 2 artifacts and/or enchantments.
Right.
And important that this can be played, out from this can get you out of things like Blood Moon,
yes.
which is pretty important.
Get you out of things like Chalice of the Void.
Correct.
Unless they have it because it's 4 naturally, right?
Yes.
Yeah, ain't no one chalicing you for 4.
No, that's also true. So, certainly those cards seem pretty impactful. We've been sort of debating in our Discord about this set in general. Beyond that, we should talk about the cycle of lands.
Yeah,
We got a cycle of enemy horizon canopies.
My lord,
A cycle. That's crazy.
I feel these lands have made me stupid. Have made me look stupid because I've said it multiple times to multiple people that they would be dumb if it would be too overpowered to print a full 10 set of these lands, which I still think is true. We have 6 now. Because we have the enemy color, and then we have the 1 allied color and Horizon Canopy, of course. If these were some of the only cards that actually went into the modern format and had an impact on it, I think Modern Horizons would have fulfilled a majority of its goal, to be perfectly honest. I honestly think that these lands, they are hugely impactful in giving decks, giving things like, is it Phoenix, access to these lands, giving things like Burn.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I play Mono Red Phoenix. I'm trying to decide if 8 of these in my deck is worthwhile or not. I get that, but
they are hugely impactful. They are some of the most. They will be some of the most popular and most played lands in Modern once they are legal there. Just like Horizon Canopy is, because Horizon Canopy
Horizon Canopy is not one of the most played. Is it?
100% is
compared to Fetches, Shocks.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. This was tweeted out. I'll find it, but
you got to find it because I'm trying to think here. Humans plays it, Boggles plays it. Infect sometimes has a couple copies. What deck am I missing? I don't even know what deck I'm missing at this point. I guess technically the non-existent Collected Company decks play it, so Spirits that doesn't exist anymore plays it. So, I'd be interested to see where they actually pull that data from, because I don't think that's true. But anyways, though, I'll piggyback back on what you said there, though. So, yes, these cards are super important and impactful, and we have some other cards in this set that are probably going to be impactful, but I think that I've been pretty frustrated with, a lot of the stuff I'm seeing in this. It feels like a weird, cutesy callback set. It's already been compared multiple times to sort of Time Spiral Block 2, Electric Boogaloo, if that makes sense. And we're getting a lot of cool callbacks to things, but I don't think we're actually getting a lot of modern playable cards. I think your point of contention earlier was do we expect them to break Modern with this? And I don't think that's true. But I do think some of the cards should be closer to playable in Modern. Instead, we have weird things green has a bear sub theme. We have a legendary grizzly bear, and then multiple other bear things. We have Bear Assault. This is Ayula's influence. You can discard a land card to create a bear. Okay, maybe that's good somewhere. I don't know, but it just seems like a real weird thing. Here's Modern Horizons. Here's our set that's going to focus on adding cards to the modern format that weren't legal before, and here's Bear Tribal. Like it doesn't mesh in my brain, and here's what I will say. It doesn't mesh in my brain because they want you to spend almost $10 a pack on this set, and that kind of pisses me off. I'm going to be honest, because outside of those lands, I haven't seen anything that should put us there. And we played Conspiracy and like Battle Bond. Conspiracy has some ridiculously expensive cards in it because that's the only time they printed it. Why in the world? What is justifying this price?
Yeah, I'll agree with you. We haven't seen that past those lands. Some of the mythic rares are definitely powerful, and I would not be surprised for them to sneak into decks. We had a mythic rare human that feels like a slam dunk for humans, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, the Ranger Captain of Eos.
That's great because he was just a knight captain, and then became the Ranger. Now he's the Ranger captain.
Seasoned Pyromancer has
implications
more than likely.
Yeah.
But man.
So this is according just to go back to our most. This is lands. This is most played lands. So the top 3 most played lands are of course Highland Mountain Forest, but past that, number 4 is Bloodstained Mire. Number 5 is Field of Ruin. Number 6 is Horizon Canopy.
I want to know where they pulled that from. I don't believe it.
It is played in, according to their data, it's 19% of decks in Modern play it.
How many copies? Is that what's the I guess
number played 3.2.
Really?
3.2. If you're playing Horizon Canopy, first of all, you're probably playing all 4.
Yeah, but what other deck right now that exists in the metagame besides humans does that? And Boggles, which isn't a thing in the metagame.
Spirits.
Isn't a thing. Hasn't been a thing in almost 2 months.
But it is a thing.
Where?
It's from the data that they gather.
Where are they gathering it from?
They gather it from Magic Online deck lists and competitive tournament results.
Okay, it's got to be Magic Online then, because competitive tournament results that we have are not backing up all these Horizon Canopies outside of humans. Whatever. I know I'm losing my mind about the wrong thing. That's fine. Yeah, these lands are super important, but I don't know. Like there's some cards that are just obviously there for commander purposes, which is cool, or a lot of weird callbacks to cards that are just significantly worse, like something like Giver of Runes, which is a Mother of Runes, like pseudo reprint, but it can't target itself. But that does defeat the point of why the card was so good. I'll play Spellskite. Today we got a new Serendib Efreet, which is 3 mana for a 3/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards and discard 3 cards. Right, that's cool. That has almost no chance of seeing play more than likely in Modern. So cool Serendib Efreet that's definitely Aladdin and has Aladdin and Magic Carpet and Iago on it.
It's so Aladdin. That's the only reason I like it that much. Because it's Aladdin.
So there's a couple interesting cards for sure. We've got Aria of Flame was an interesting sort of way to build around Burn a little bit. Things like Goblin Engineer and Planebound Accomplice are cool red cards, but I guess I don't know. I'm just not seeing. Again, I'm definitely not seeing what drives the price of this, but I'm also not seeing what makes this Modern Horizons versus Commander Horizons or Cube Horizons.
So here's the reason why it's called Modern Horizons, because the cards are going directly into Modern.
Yeah, I get that, but
I'm like, it's marketing, man. That's why. They don't call it anything else because they want to emphasize the fact that these are all going into Modern, and that makes people excited. Did we talk about the full art Snowlands that are going to be in every pack?
No, full art Snowlands is going to be in every pack.
I think that's significant. I mean, this will obviously impact their price, but some of these snowlands are upwards of $3 to $5 per land. If you're looking at snow-covered mountains and stuff like that, introducing these to the environment is
it's just a standard plant.
I mean, hopefully.
That's a joke, but we are supposed to. I do believe we're supposed to be in a supposedly
the going rumor, the best rumor,
yeah,
the rumor that I believe in my heart of hearts. Yes,
Niflheim sort of esque plane. So.
But
again, I'm not really upset with the set. Overall, I think a friend of ours who's in our Discord has been upset with it so far. I get the reason for being upset about this. It is so far a weird set. Now, one of the things I acknowledged today is that the release for this is just totally different. War of the Spark threw us off on that too. We're used to the best cards coming out first, and then the worst other cards trickling out. That's not the case here. The cards we've had this week, we're gonna have cards of equal power level next week. We haven't gotten the Planeswalker yet, besides Sarah. There's another one for sure. So. There could be more that changes my mind here, and it's not like there's all bad stuff here. Some of the uncommons do work. Things like Goblin Matron or Lava Dart have me kind of okay, these are playable. But
yeah, Lava Dart, I'm really excited about that card. I think that's a cool thing to have entered into the format. It's a free spell, free spells are interesting.
Agreed. Also, Lava Dart, and it was pointed out to us immediately by a number of people, does have flavor text featuring Koth of the Hammer.
Kothwatch 2019.
Yeah, he's still there. He's all around.
I mean, there's a lot of flavor text that probably has dead characters on it, but we can only hope.
I don't care. And a bunch of the characters here are dead, like Sisay and Urza. But
100%, they dead. But
we get like Prohibit in Modern, which is kind of interesting. Nimble Mongoose maybe is interesting. So
yeah, I don't think that we've got. I don't think that past like Flusterstorm, which is going to be the buy box promo,
and that's a big get.
I don't think anything past that has been exciting as far as as high of a profile card as far as like the non-modern reprints.
Sure.
And it's
not really in the set.
Yeah, it's awkward. I do hope that there are still some of those to come that can be exciting.
Right.
I think that it's hard to judge it right now. We don't have the whole thing. I definitely get some people's complaints that this is that the name is a misnomer. I feel like that is the name of the set has done a huge disservice. Once we started seeing cards and seeing what they were doing, I quickly realized like this isn't going to have the same amount of impact that I thought it was going to be, and I think that is disappointing. Now that could change. There's still cards to be spoiled. Not spoiled, but there's still cards to be revealed, and I still have a hope. We don't necessarily have. At this point in time in like the sort of the season, I feel like we would have a lot more rares. We don't have a lot of rares. We don't have a lot of mythic rares. So those are still going to be the exciting cards. I kind of want more uncommons. I kind of want more commons. I think for me in my Pauper Cube, there's definitely some exciting cards that are in this, but I'm excited for those cards for a different reason than what the name implies.
It should. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So I just think it's disappointing that this is called Modern Horizons. But I
agree with that.
I think it's hard for them to say that this is a product that's going to be legal and modern, and not have modern in the name of it initially.
Yeah, I agree with that. But then at the same time, like, if you also don't want people apparently to have expectations that you're going to have high impact modern cards in it. So now that said, we did just get a Mox Tantalite.
Yeah, we certainly did. Cool, because that's what this format actually needs: more free mana.
Well, but like this is interesting. Suspend 3, and then it just taps to add 1 mana of any color.
Yes.
So you can't have it on turn 1. I mean, there's probably ways to get it on turn 1.
Come on. Yeah,
you can put this in the graveyard with Goblin Engineer and then get it into play.
Get it back. You can cast Electro Dominance for 0 and put this into play. So that's turn 2. That's turn 2. That's the earliest I think that you can get into play is turn 2.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there? I'd have to look and see if there's a creature that's like you can put an artifact with like.
I guess that's true. Artifacts are specific, but I don't think there's anything like turn 1.
Yeah,
I don't. This isn't a turn 1 Mox. This is a turn 3 Mox at best.
Yeah. So let's talk about one more card and talk about the last thing I want to talk about Horizons for now, since we're in the midst of the set. Are we going to do a Palooza for Horizons?
I don't think so. I don't think there's enough cards that are worth talking about.
I don't disagree, but we'll see.
We will talk about a lot of the cards. Not a lot, but a fair amount of cards once we get the whole set, I feel like.
Now, I want to talk about the next card and sort of a series of cards, and then we'll talk about what I put in the show notes here. So we also got confirmation there are slivers in this set.
Yeah.
We got the first sliver, which is Wooburg, a 7/7 legendary creature sliver. It has Cascade, and then sliver spells you cast have Cascade, which is super nutty because your slivers just get slivers, which get slivers.
Yeah.
So
slivers on slivers on slivers.
So this is slivers already deck in Modern. I don't think the first sliver is playable. Like, I don't know, 5 mana, 7/7. Maybe it's good enough if you can cast with it. Got to get that vial up real high.
You're still probably playing Sliver Overlord, right?
Yeah, probably.
In those decks, because there are sliver decks in Modern, they're
getting some slivers. Like they getting
certainly
some slivers.
Are.
Like that is one thing that's happening.
This is something where like the Aether Bile creature deck has been humans for the longest time,
right?
But we see these slivers getting put into the format that may change that. And I tell you what, like, being the humans player against the slivers player is pretty difficult, to be honest, because typically their slivers are going to have flying.
Yeah.
Flying sucks.
The one that we really got here is Dregscape Sliver, which is a black and a colorless for a 2/2. Each sliver you card in your graveyard has Unearth, and it also has Unearth. And like if you're the Vial Sliver deck, then like you get to Vial something in and maybe like Unearth back, and that's a pretty good cost for Unearth. So. And like even if you kill this one, then it can unearth first, and then you can unearth whatever you want that turn. So, but I do want to talk about the first sliver because people have been pretty quick. We had this about 2 weeks ago where we saw a huge spike. 2 or 3 weeks ago on the Sliver Queen specifically, but also Sliver Legion.
Sliver Queen's on the reserve list.
It is.
So that hey,
it's still shot up to almost $200.
That happens though with RL cards. You know what I mean?
It does. And Sliver Legion shot up to about $70.
Right.
And then this would happen.
Yeah, it seems like someone might have had some insider info.
This is something interesting when you consider how they are now doing these these previews. I know there's a thing you have to sign, non-disclosure when you're given one of these, but like you tell friends who tell friends, they never say your name. Like,
right.
What are you going to trace? You know what I mean? But John Medina, who used to own Legit MTG, who's a pretty big finance guy, he mentioned, he's like, yeah, this doesn't just happen, just so you know. He's like, this is insider trading. And like somebody said, what you just said, well, commander cards spike all the time. And he's like, where's my Palancron reserve list spike then? Because I need to see it. Because this seems like it spiked with another Sliver card 2 weeks before the Sliver Legion.
They all just played it wrong. They all played it wrong. If you had just bought Sliver Queen, no one said anything. They would have been like, well, that's weird. But they were like, but reserve list.
Yeah, right.
But they messed it up with Sliver Legion.
That's true. You're not wrong. They definitely did. So yeah, it is a weird situation and something they should monitor because I don't think that matters as much in Standard. It's harder to truly speculate in Standard. Like, what could you have done in War in the Spark to speculate on? Because has any older card really spiked because of that stuff? Like, and people already were speculating on like the Mox, Mox.
Amber.
Yeah, Mox Amber. And, like, that's kind of paid off, I guess. It is, like, a 2 of a number of lists now. But, man, in something like this, like a set that is essentially, like, a commander, has a large commander contingent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, you do have to, like, to help refocus sort of Modern Horizons, you do always have to establish that these sets are typically, they're exploratory sets, and they are typically stuffed with a lot of commander cards because commander players can play whatever they want within their own ban list. But so even though this is going to be modern legal, I'm sure when this file was started, we obviously know it was started as Time Spiral Part 2. So there's obviously going to be a lot of cards that aren't good enough for modern,
right?
And are going to be focused for commander players. And I think you have to hope that maybe those cards help justify some of the price point. And hopefully there's some other modern winners and maybe 1 or 2 good reprints that are like snap it off. And I think there's still plenty left to see from it, and we'll talk about it once we get the whole set next week. Well, I guess we won't talk about it next week, but we get the whole set next week.
Right.
All right. So that is all of our community topics. Before we jump into the competitive segment, I do want to give a quick shout out to Comic Town. They're going to be holding a MCQ Saturday, June 15th. It's going to be $45, and you can pre-register for it right now, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, because I am pre-registered for it. I pre-registered last week, and it felt great.
I haven't done it yet, so I have to go check and see if I can still do it.
Yeah, I got my. got my little Barky boy.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that you basically get paid.
Yeah,
you're probably going to get paid
$45, and you're going to get probably a $40 to $50 foil. So
yeah, there's really no reason not to. And it's standard?
It is standard.
Okay, it's standard.
So, now the nice thing, it being capped at 200, like you're not going to have that's a long day, but it's not insane.
Right.
So yeah, I would get in sooner rather than later. Based on what we know about MCQs around the world, they have been capping pretty quickly. So get in now.
Do it now.
Do it.
All right. So next up we have competitive. So we're going to talk about Mox and talk about Star City Games Syracuse. So let's start, with the Mox. So it was a split format. It was both standard as well as modern.
It's weird how they could do an online tournament and do formats that weren't crazy weird things. Huh.
Yeah. How about that? So we had Mattia Aneto being the winner of Mox, so congrats. He defeated fan favorite Kenji Numat the Nami Egashira in the finals, unfortunately.
That was his given middle name by his mother. He'll be Kenji Numat the Nami.
We have Mattia on Azorius aggro, defeating Jeskai. Control / Mattia was also on Is It Phoenix, so they played one match of Standard, then one match of Modern, and then if the Standard match and Modern match are tied, they went back to Standard, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
Is It Phoenix was played by Mattia, and then Tron was being played by Kenji. So, we also had We had Bernardo Torres in the final, in the top 4, along with Marcio Cavallo in the top 4. And then, what else did you want to kind of talk about and take a look at here with regards to?
I'm just looking at Modern real quick. Okay, so the other deck I may have missed out on. So Hardened Scales play some number of
yes,
Horizon Canopy. But I'm just like looking at all this, and it's like, Is It Phoenix? No. Tron? No. Goryo's Vengeance? No. Dredge? No. Blue Eye Control? No. Burn? No. Humans? Yes. Hardened Scale? Yes. Cheerios? No. Restore Balance? No. Mardu Pyromancer? No. Jun? No. Mono Red Phoenix? No.
Now,
Affinity? No.
I understand there may not be a lot of archetypes that play it, but there are a lot of people who play those archetypes. You also have to look at that in that reference.
But that is not the same. Like, saying it's like that played in Modern, like if that deck is played like X percentage on like Magic Online, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But that's not
in paper as well in tournament winning. Like if you look at so their numbers they had for Horizon Canopy is 114 decks playing Horizon Canopy for humans.
So
for
humans
specifically.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense then.
So
okay. Sorry,
I'm just saying. I understand, like maybe not archetypes play it, but there are a lot of people that play those archetypes.
That's fair. Let's take a look at. Let's start with Standard here and look at Kenji's Jeskai control list.
Yeah, this is a little different. This is not Planeswalkers. This is
it kind of is. It has 10 Planeswalkers.
But
it's not like the Sarkin Planeswalker deck.
No. This is more of a traditional. I wouldn't even say traditional control.
It's a Ral combo deck.
It is an Absorb deck as well, which is
weird, honestly. Like
it's not common anymore.
Like Kenji did a good job navigating this, but Absorb is a card that's seeing less and less play, and regular Esper Control is being squeezed hard out of Standard because of how good Teferi Time Raveler is.
Yeah, shutting off counter spells and just having like a handful of Absorbs just makes you feel like you're a big old idiot.
It's real bad.
But of course, I love this list just for the sheer fact that it's like I get to play Starve Extinction, and Starve Extinction it's your planar cleansing in this format. Like that I mean, it's not fun to have to be like, well, this is where we're at within the format.
Yeah, I'm the fun police. Here's a comet.
yeah, and I'm gonna like destroy the planet, but. Sometimes you got to destroy the planet.
Sometimes you got to destroy the planet.
And I like that. That is one of the cards that definitely feels like if you want a way to try and attack the format, that is a way that you can do it. I say that, and then I just think like, well, and then they're just going to command the Dreadhorde everything back, and you're like, well, cool.
So we should point out that the Command the Dreadhorde deck, like what is that? Green, black, rock.
It should be 4-color.
Oh, sorry, 4 colors. Let me take a look here. Because I don't know if there's...
I don't know.
There's none of it here.
Because they had to lock in their lists early.
It also didn't do well at Syracuse, and that's something to point out.
It didn't top 8 Syracuse.
I'm saying, like, what? Because I want to say, like, is it top 16, maybe one of the top 16? Like, I don't think that deck can consistently actually beat the Planeswalker deck. Well, like, we can talk about that. But the Jeskai Planeswalker deck, like the Sarkin deck... I don't think Command the Dreadhorde is good enough to consistently beat it. I think that's the problem with it. So, but anyways, we'll come back to that. The green black rock deck here is the Citadel deck,
which is wild.
Yeah, I love it. That deck is really fun to play. I don't know consistently how good that deck is, but it's really fun to play. It is another deck though that is definitely going all in on the Wild Growth Walker Explore package. So yeah, and because of that, we do see that like. Mono Red, which did pretty well in Syracuse, did average here with it. What I think Mono Red's Brandon Pascal was it was the highest ranked list, unless these are just they're not in alphabetical order. So, which is interesting. There are a couple different versions of Esper Hero, which is a deck that I've been playing a bunch of. Carvalho's list was pretty interesting. Playing 4 Basilica Bellhaunts in the main. which is and duress in the main, which is something that I kind of like. That's the deck I've been working on the most, and you've got to do some interesting things against the Sarkin deck. So I like all the hand taxation. And the one thing I will say that's sad is I do think that as much as I like Thief of Sanity, man, it does not seem super well positioned. All the Planeswalker decks are running 4 shocks.
Yeah, that's definitely rough. There seems to be a lot of decks that are having running a plethora of answers for your 2 like CMC creatures.
Right. Now I will say that being said, Azorius Aggro
defense, sorry, 2 butt creatures.
2 butt creatures. Azorius Aggro winning here is pretty interesting to me. I know it's been a popular deck for the pros. But this deck continues to feel like to me like it's the most beatable deck in the format if you want to beat it. But also all the Planeswalker decks have to figure out how to like decks that are playing, for example, main deck Elder spells. Like, man, like if you're the Azorius Aggro player, you just love it, don't you? You're like, oh, you have the Elder spell in your hand. Oh, you have 2 copies in your main deck. Sweet. Here's a 2/1.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of these decks have moved to some number of Gideons in the main. We're starting to see he had 2 in the main, and that's pretty good against like the decks that are trying to fairy bounce your guy or deafening Clary on you. Gideon's like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm not a creature, and 3 damage means nothing to me.
Yeah, and I think like that's when you look at what's going on with Kenji's deck. That's kind of where I think the mono white deck can take advantage of that, and I think that the advantage that you have with like the other Planeswalker decks, the Command the Dread Horde, the Jeskai list. Obviously, you're playing a lot of Clarions, which helps, but Sarkin is the way that you clean up the Planeswalkers, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Sarkin's the way that you put a clock on your opponent so that they are left sort of floundering. And I think like the Jeskai control list that Kenji played just doesn't have that quick turnaround, that quick fulcrum that it can kind of swing back at the Azorius Aggro list. But I mean, I definitely looking at when we take a look at this tournament, which is is going to be naturally different. It is you're playing 3 different formats across 2 different days, so what deciphering what the best deck or any sort of like what you should be doing forward in the metagame is not going to be what we draw from this. But I definitely think that Jeskai Planeswalkers still looks good. You see that we have a list in third/4th place.
Well, with that in mind, let's move to Syracuse because
I think that'll be more of a healthy discussion.
That is where I think the better version of Jeskai Walkers is.
Yes.
Moving away from Kasmina, which is what is in the MOCS list.
Yeah.
Looking at Zan Saeed's first place list.
I do want to point out that we have 6 copies of Jeskai Super Friends in the day 2 from day 1, and then 6 copies of 4-color Dread Horde. So they both had the same conversion rates.
Yeah, but you have 14th place, then 22nd place, and 23rd place, which is Super Friends went 1st, 3rd, 7th. I'm just saying.
It is important that Team Lotus Box, which are a large majority of the top 8, all obviously had similar, if not the same lists. And I just think they had the list for the tournament.
Oh, I think so too.
And they kind of figured it out, like because it was Kazu, Negri, Abe Corrigan, and Zan Syed who was our eventual winner of this tournament. I just think like when you look at what they have going on, like no more creatures, no more Fibblefips. Like we're done with that nonsense, and we're just like 18 Planeswalkers. Let's go. And a lot of what I think a lot of what they're doing is just whole heart powerful. They were playing like 4 Sarkins before, and then like we see the Force Fairy, but we see I think the new addition is like no Narset, but the Saheelis and the Karns a little bit.
So yeah,
so you have this artifact sub thing that allows you to suddenly ramp your damage because you can just make your Karn tokens or your servos into dragons.
Yeah, so it's that's that Kasmina slot that is shifted, and like everything you cast, everything in this deck you cast triggers Saheeli, and I think that like we even like Drake's been playing Saheeli because it works so well with spells. But it's important to know here that like it's non-creature, so everything here triggers it. And like you said, Karn then actually gets a real clock going with its minuses. The other important thing though is that if you sequence this correctly, So you'll have 1/1 servos when you cast your Sarkin.
Yeah.
And so then if you have something you need to clean up, specifically another Planeswalker you need to get rid of, you can play your Sarkin, tick down, get a dragon, and then turn a servo into a dragon, and it gives you essentially a hasty dragon to take out other Planeswalkers. Yes. I played against this list now. Yesterday I played against this list, and I'll be honest, I haven't played much this week. I was sitting at like 400 and something Mythic. I played against this list 3 times in a row and lost all 3 times, and I was sitting at like 900, and I turned off Arena in disgust. So it felt like when they resolved Karn on a regular board state, man, it was really tough. So if I want to try this list out, if I'm going to keep with Esper, I think, as much as I was against it when we talked on our last episode, I think with this deck being so good, now is the time to go back to the detention, detention mages. That's not their name, but whatever. Something of detention.
Yes.
That Jerry T was talking about before, because that card is very good against these lists. Their hard removal is Shocks and Clarions and a Lightning Strike, and then just their Planeswalkers. So being able to hit a Planeswalker and hold it, or hit all of their servos in one fell swoop is pretty good.
So if you do, if you want to attack these Planeswalker decks, in all honesty, on a different angle, attack their lands. Field of Ruin them. They don't have any basics.
Interesting.
So neither does the Dreadhorde deck typically have any basics. So I've been playing a blue-green ramp deck that has 4 Field of Ruin in it, and if they never get to 6 mana to cast Dreadhorde, you never have to worry about it. Huh. It's been like I just played a little bit with last night, and it felt really good to just like kill your land. I'm not down a land. Or people have been playing Assassin's Trophy, which is also really good because they don't have any basics.
I've seen the blue-green list, like four Nissas. Were you playing the Karn Tron version? I've seen that going around.
No Karns. It's like it's Jim Davis was actually streaming with it because I was gonna pick up a Dreadhorde list and play it and like give it a shot. And it was just like four Nissas, 6 Ugins, like 4 Grazers, 4 Elves. You're playing explore creatures, so you have the 4. The 4/2/1, and then 4 Jadelight Ranger, and then you're playing 4 Blast Zones, 4 Field of Ruin.
Interesting.
And you're playing 2 Crucible Worlds.
Yeah, that's the list I've seen as well. The Karn list, though, like some of their options are pretty cool, and the one that was like pretty interesting against all these Planeswalker lists was the Godpharaoh statue. You Karn for that, and then you're just like, okay, cast. You can't, and I'm going to keep Field of Ruining you, so you can't cast any spells, which is an interesting way to go about it. I do want to make mention that like these lists too. So a card that's been very good for me the last week with the Command the Dreadhorde and these cards is Unmoored Ego.
Yes,
you hit Command the Dreadhorde, that deck gets a lot easier to beat.
Yeah,
because they don't just have a draw off the top that makes them
now you're playing against this like a 4-color Planeswalker deck, which is a lot more approachable.
And same is true for these Jeskai lists. Like naming Sarkin made it pretty hard for them to have a win condition, but these new builds with Saheeli, they can still just win. So this is when you say they had the deck for the weekend, yes, but I also think like this is the way you're building going forward.
Yeah,
like,
this is what you're tweaking.
Whatever the changes is. Yeah. I still want to know if like Mox Amber actually is worth it. Like I know.
So I believe that it is, and you can see it in their deck building, right? Because you're playing Saheeli.
Because you want, okay.
And you have 4 opt, 4 shocks, so you can play your Mox Amber and still have a 1-mana spell to generate value.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I think
you can also...
and they were the commenters were saying this. You could take a look at the deck list and be like, this is why Mox Amber is here with Saheeli.
Being able to spell pierce,
it all kind of works together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And spell pierce, of course.
Yeah, the one thing that's really rough about these decks too, like again, I've been playing the Esper Hero deck, is like how good Mobilized District is in these decks because they get the cost down to 0 pretty consistently.
That's tough. You see this 3-color deck that's playing like 2 like colorless lands, and you're like, okay, like how? And then you're like, oh, just because I can just do this. Yeah. I can have a 3/3 vigilance.
And it's just tough when you're playing because you want to play things like Teferi Time Raveler against them, or like Narset against them, but they make a dragon token and you want to go, okay, cool, I'll play my Teferi, tick this down, and then it's just like, okay, well, like if you got rid of the Sarkin too, then like here's just this land that's coming at you, and you're like, all right, oh, you have Teferi in play, cool, all of my instance removal can't interact with your land, that's neat. So yeah, this deck is scary, and I think the Command the Dreadhorde deck was like cool and like it's a powerful deck. But I really do think this is the deck you have to worry about right now. This is not just because it won the tournament, but just because like if you haven't played against this list yet, it is surprisingly robust.
Yeah,
and like I had like just playing like last night. I was navigating board states where I feel ahead here, and like one draw from that deck, whether it be Sarkin or whatever else, can like all of a sudden you go, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
Right? And like, okay, I want to attack these planeswalkers. Well, the Saheeli does so much work and has so much loyalty that it's tough. So be ready for this deck. Also important to note, Sarkin's like static ability is pretty good against a lot of the format right now.
Yeah, just dealing dealing X based on how many dragons you have is pretty good.
I did win a game against one of them by hitting them with a Thief of Sanity, taking a Sarkin, taking down a Sarkin, like playing it and like making a dragon, and then they bounced my dragon, or no, then they didn't kill the dragon token because it was like the next turn I attacked one of their planeswalkers. They had 5 Saheeli tokens, and they're like, oh well, I'll attack your Sarkin, and I was like, neat. And then they shame conceded. Like, didn't even let all the triggers resolve.
The appropriate response.
Because, like, they weren't dead at all. They just immediately shame conceded. It was like, okay, I gotcha.
I think another important takeaway that we have from this tournament is Mono Red's still very good.
Yeah, that's super important.
And it feels like the standard format is keeping to the rule that, like, you know that you have a good standard format if, like, Mono Red is still a good deck.
Right.
And what feels like by that, I don't know if that can hold true anymore, because it feels like Mono Red has been a good deck for
years,
for years now, and we haven't always had a good standard format. So, I think you're seeing like innovations in like you're not all in on Frenzy. You're not all in on Chandra. You're playing some sort of mix to keep to try to dodge removal one way or another. A lot of people have gone back to playing Phoenix as being like another 4-drop out of the sideboard to really assist you with what's going on with your deck. I just think like if you have a tournament and you're really not sure what to play, and you're comfortable with playing Mono Red, then it's hard for me to suggest that you don't.
Don't worry, it's in my back pocket because
exactly. Like I think Mike and I both have Mono Red decks. They're like, yeah.
I mean, I top into that.
We might have to like chop our Chandras in half a little bit.
I own 2 otherwise, so we have 6 total.
Okay, fair enough. Then we'll be aight.
I think it's important too when you look at these, when you look at Chandra, you look at Experimental Frenzy, you look and see that any risk factors are now on the board. If you're playing Mono Red, you can't play risk factor in the main.
Yeah.
You can't. There's too many decks that are playing Narsets in the main, and like nothing else in your deck cares about Narset. Like Experimental Frenzy doesn't care, Chandra doesn't care, but oh boy, is risk factor
just
bad.
a bad card. Cool. I'll choose the option where you draw no cards,
hey,
and I take your turn, no damage.
It could be 1.
Yeah,
you could draw 1 card, but oh boy, like I've already been on like this is the worst card of my Mono Red deck most of the time. But now it's like against half the field, this is by far the worst card of my Mono Red deck.
So I think I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about all these planeswalkers. I don't think.
I think you have to be.
I don't think they gave us the right answers, if that makes sense. Or maybe we have to be forced to play the bad answers that we don't want to play.
Here's the problem with that. I think we have a lot of answers, and even like the Planeswalker deck itself is playing like 3 copies of Prison Realm, which is a pretty efficient answer to Planeswalkers. The problem is that Teferi Time Raveler it's like okay, fine, like I just play it the next turn. But the problem is that half the Planeswalkers you're taking, like if you hit a Narset with your Prison Realm, right? Well, then they just get another tick down. Like you are down so many cards doing it that it feels bad, and it's frustrating because like Vraska's Contempt was such a staple of the format, but now it costs more than the Planeswalkers do. So like how many of them can you actually run and then not get spell pierced into oblivion? So it is tough. Some cards that are worth continuing to look into. Some like people were really high on D-Spark. I'm not that high on it. You can't hit the most important Planeswalkers.
Yeah, you can't handle the 3 ones.
But Oath of Kaya does a lot.
Yeah,
and I think like you have to like I've seen a lot of Esper Control as in Esper like hero decks. Like I'm up to 2 copies now. Like it just being able to hit a Planeswalker is so important.
Yeah, any target is very important with that card, and you can't look at it and be like, "Oh, this feels mopey." To have on against these decks, it's like no, it's effective. They all hit it within that realm,
right?
Like, and it makes people have to play with their Teferis differently, which could be giving you another turn to do something effective. Like if they are afraid of the Oath of Kaya, kill their Teferi after they bounce something or bounce nothing, then maybe you get to navigate that turn a little bit better.
100%. So I think like obviously Mono Red has the tools to interact with them right now, and Goblin Chain Whirler is interestingly good again, despite there not being a ton of creatures, because like it finishes off all of the staticky planeswalkers.
So good.
Even like making like something like a Saheeli or a Narset have to like tick down to 0 to do something, it affects their deck. You know, things like Mox Amber and things like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, there. I was going to say the other one. The other thing I think is interesting, and somebody mentioned this I think I saw it on Twitter, but going into at least the next week, if Jeskai Planeswalkers is like the most played deck, like it is the #1 deck, is that when Mono Blue comes back?
Could be.
Because, man, Mono Blue's like...
It still sucks if you're going to be that player, because Mono Red, and like...
You're not wrong.
You could just get like busted up by all the Mono Red players, because if you want to go to a red, like an aggressive deck that has a good matchup between, again, most of the format, Mono Red, is what you should be doing. I think if people are trying to be like, well, what do I do to like an Esper control deck to help beat, you know, these Planeswalker decks, then maybe if you see like an uptick in like straight Esper control, and you have these Jeskai lists, and then you're like, cool, now I can, and hopefully dodge all the mono red lists. I'm not saying, you know, obviously it's not unbeatable. You can definitely play mono blue and still, you know, have a chance at beating, you know, your mono red opponents. But it is an important deck that has definitely fallen out of favor, but still has its moments where it can exist. So that's going to be everything for us for this week. So thank you everyone for listening. If you want, you can definitely check us out here at a few different places. If you want to send us an email, you can do so. It's @yourenstep@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter account. It's YourEndstep, and when you add us, it's @YourEndstep, because we're clever. And then lastly, we of course have Facebook. It's facebook.com/@YourEndstep. If you're listening to us via a podcast app that allows ratings and reviews, we would appreciate one of those. It really helps really helps us get some visibility, and we really believe that we're a 5-star podcast. So we hope that you do as well. Again, I want to give a shout out to our lovely sponsor in Comic Town. Again, they have that MCQ coming up that you can already pre-register for, so be sure you do that so you don't miss your spot. There is also, if you're listening to us via Legit MTG, thank you so much for picking up the show. Check out some of the articles they have on the website and, of course, their online store. And, of course, if you're a patron of us, thank you so much. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/@YourEndstep. We super appreciate your support, and really couldn't do the show without you. That's going to be everything for us this week. We'll catch you next time, and you have a great one. Bye.